Let me introduce you with our speaker of the evening today, that is Mr. Musal Kazim. Uh, Mr. Musal Kazim, or preferably we call him Kazim Sir. He's popular as Kazim Sir in India and in different parts of other countries also. He is CMA US, CFM, and ICWA, that is CMA India. He was a finance controller somewhere in I think, sir, what was the place?
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, yeah. Then Russia, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And sir has taught in different international platforms, not only in India. He was the senior faculty of Hawk International and used to take international classes for CMA US. And of course, in India, he has taught in several places, huge corporate experience and huge teaching experience as well. So we feel lucky to get him today as our speaker. And of course, all of you, I think you know the basics of CMA US. What is CMA? Who provides qualification? What is the syllabus and all? I think that your respective coordinator has given you all the details. So it's of no use to repeat all those things. That's the reason we decided to go directly to a demo class, like to show you in reality how our classes will be taking place. And you will be happy to know sir will be taking your classes in the upcoming batch. So just have a real like ground reality check and just experience a wonderful lecture from a mentor who is very, very well known for his CMA US teaching. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Baswati. And welcome everybody to today's session. Okay, so I have been already introduced by Baswati, so I don't have to introduce myself again. Right. So I take it that most of you all know what the CMA is, right? I don't have to go into great details on that, but I'll just explain to you some of it, okay? Yeah. So I'll use the whiteboard for that. As you know, the CMA has got part 1 and part 2. Fine. And let me come straight to the point. Is it a difficult course? Well, you decide. The part 1 passing rate is around 40%. Somewhere around that. So if 100 people sit, only 40 would pass. Part 2, I don't know, very strangely, it shows a little higher, almost 50%. It's like 49 or something like that. I really don't know why. I think because part 1 has got section E, which is internal control, and section F, which is technology, which is slightly difficult to score. That's what I feel. That's my personal opinion. Whereas part 2, it has got more technical subjects, very less of theory subjects. Yes, of course, there is section D, which is a small weightage, which is risk management, and section F, which is professional ethics. These are relatively easier to score. Probably that's why the passing percentage is around 50%. Okay. So having said that, today's, and you know very well that there is 3 hours of MCQs, 1 hour of essay. Okay. And some of you may not be knowing this. If you finish your MCQs in 2.5 hours, okay, you get that extra half an hour for your essay. So totally you have 4 hours either ways. Okay. So if you finish 2 hours, your MCQ in 2 hours, you have 2 hours for essay. But generally the MCQs would take a lot of your time. Okay. So you would have 3 hours and it would be tight. Most of them struggle through this. Okay, so the time management is very important. So it's very, very important, time management, because that is where people fail. Now, let me tell you something. All questions, this you may not know, all questions are given the same marks. Okay, all questions are given the same marks. There's something called a scale score, which I'll just explain to you. Okay, these are the question papers, by the way. Okay, so now you have got, let us say, a difficult question. I'll put D for difficult. Difficult question, easy question, easy question. Okay, second, I'll put 3. Okay, easy question, E for easy. Okay, and here also you have got difficult question, difficult question, difficult question, difficult question, easy question. Okay, now please note that all questions are graded the same. But if you have got a paper whose degree of difficulty is more, you saw in this paper, there is more difficult questions. Okay, there's more difficult questions than one easy question. In this paper, there are more easy questions. So what is easy and difficult? IMA would decide. You know, there is level A kind of questions, which only requires basic knowledge, and level B requires application. Level C is higher than that. It requires synthesis. Okay, synthesis means you have to combine two figures. You have to work out two figures and combine it to get an answer. So that becomes a little more difficult. Okay, so there are different degrees of difficulty. So what is a really difficult paper? IMA would decide and would grade it accordingly. Now just watch. For a difficult paper, maybe the score is little higher per question. Okay, let us say 15. I'm just giving you an example of 15. It may not be 15. Okay, like this. Even the easy question is given the same. Okay, given the same marks. But if you have got an easy paper, now this is, I told you, is graded by IMA as difficult because it has more difficult question. This is an easy. So if it's an easy, the difficult questions, everything would have the same marks, but it would be a lesser mark. I'm just saying, for example, 10. Okay. The easy also 10, easy also 10, everything would be 10, 10, 10. This will be 15. So what's the conclusion here? The conclusion here is, if you get a difficult paper, you need to get lesser questions correct to pass the exam. 360 is the passing, you know very well. You need to get lesser questions because each question's weightage is more. The marks given for each question, easy and difficult is the same, but it's given a more weightage. Okay. Whereas an easy paper is given a less weightage, so you would have to get more questions correct to pass the exam. Right? So this is the way it works. So do not spend too much time on a difficult question. Okay? Because it's going to give you the same marks as the easy question. So if you come across a difficult question and you cannot answer it within the stipulated time, I would suggest do not spend more than 3 to 5 minutes on a question. 5 minutes maximum. Okay? Not more than 5 minutes per question. Otherwise, you'll fall short of time. On an average, you have to spend 1 minute, 48 seconds per multiple choice question on an average. There are some easy questions you might spend only 10 seconds to pass it. Okay. And there are difficult questions which you might spend 3 minutes to pass, to actually answer it. So on an average, you should hit this 1 minute, 48 seconds. Okay. So keep that in mind always while answering the paper. If you don't get a difficult question, mark some answer. Don't leave any questions unanswered. Mark something and then flag it. There's a flagging facility. So once you flag it, those flag questions would come back to you after you finish your paper, and you can spend more time in answering it correctly. Okay. And do not spend too much time. It's taking more than 3 minutes and you're not getting anywhere. Just flag it and go, because the easy questions, you will miss out on the easy questions if you spend too much time on the difficult ones. And remember, everything is graded the same. Everything has the same marks in each paper. Okay. Then you go to the essay. If you have 50% of the MCQs correct, okay, then you go to the essay. If you do not have this minimum correct, then you know your result already. You don't have to wait for that 6 weeks after the exam. You have failed. Okay. If you go to the essay, you have those 6 or 8 weeks of waiting after the exam, so that, you know, they correct the essay and they give you the full result. Okay. Now, some students get very highly excited that they have gone to an essay. They think that they have already passed, now finished. I went to the essay, now I think I will pass. No, there are so many students who have gone to the essay and failed multiple times. I have come across those kind of students also. Okay. So don't be overconfident if you get an easy paper, because you have to get more questions correct to pass it. And don't lose hope if you get a difficult paper, because you need to get lesser questions to pass it. Okay, you need to get lesser questions correct to pass it. Answer every single question, because there is no negative correction. Please note that. Okay, for example, I'm giving you just an example. Okay, do not use this every time. There is 1 minute to go. Imagine you are in this situation and there are 10 questions to be answered. What do? If you read the question, you would lose that minute. Okay, so do not read it at all. Just mark everything A. All the 10 questions. Just mark it blindly, or even B, anything, any of it. Okay, just mark something. Do not leave it unanswered. Because you just see, if you work out the theory of probability, out of 4 choices, what is the chance of getting a question correct? 1 out of 4, is it not? 1 out of 4, that's a 25% chance of getting a question correct. So for each question you have answered, if there are 10 questions you have answered just randomly without even thinking, there's a chance of getting 25% of these 10 questions correct. You cannot get 2.5 questions correct. So you might get 3 questions correct. Okay. If you're lucky, you might get more than that. If you're very unlucky, I still think you should get at least 1 question correct. And that many people get 360. So that might make a difference between passing and failing. You understood me? Okay. Now, essay. What some people get too worried about the essay. My advice to you is your strategy should be to get as many multiple choice questions correct as possible. That should be a strategy. Okay. The essay is nothing but a descriptive version of the multiple choice questions. Sometimes those lengthy multiple choice questions are asked in an essay. Always practice your essay on a computer. Do not practice it on paper. The reason being, you'll be typing in the answers and you need the thought flow coming to you as you type, not as you write. Because if you practice writing and if you have to type in the exam, there is not enough net practice, as you call it. Okay. So you should practice the same way as it would be in the exam. So for that, you must do at least 1 mock exam. Do not do too many mock exams. You'll get exhausted. Keep your best for the exam. Okay, even chess players, for example, they have a rest day, you know, and they actually rest before a major match. They're not always practicing. Okay, they take a rest day. Now chess tournaments are going on. I read about it. They take a good rest day and then they come back fresh. That day, that rest day, they're not practicing anything. They're just enjoying, relaxing, and keeping their best for the tournament. You should do the same. Do not do too many mock exams just before the exam. Okay, you may not give your best during the exam. Each one is different, but generally, I feel that you should actually revise, take it a little easy, sleep well just before the exam. You need to be thinking clearly. The questions are going to be complicated. And if you do not have proper sleep, you would suffer. That's why some people who give the exam casually pass because they are relaxed. And the people who have studied hours are tense and they fail. Okay. Now, how many hours do you need to pass the exam? How many hours of study? Okay. How many hours of study you need to pass the exam? Now, this is a question everybody asks me. It depends on each individual student. Okay. But some people say, can I study 8 hours a day? No, you will not study 8 hours a day. You will not be productive at all. Let me assure you that. And if you can study 8 hours, you have to build it up over time. It is just like running a marathon. You cannot run all at once. You have to build up your stamina and forget 8 hours. There is life beyond CMA. Study 3 hours, try to put in gradually. Start with 1 hour, gradually move on to 3 hours and maintain this throughout, even weekends. Some people need a rest day, depends on the individual. I do not need, for example. Okay, because I'm studying less, so why should I need a rest day? That's my logic. Okay, even for work, actually, I don't require a Sunday if I'm on a project. Okay, I work throughout because uh, suppose I had a recording to do for Hawk. I used to work on Sundays, Saturdays, everything because I'm not working too much. Okay, so that is sustainable. Keep one sustainable pace. Okay, so 3 hours every day without fail, quality study. Quality meaning you should understand the concept, not mug up. Okay, understand the concept. So that's where I'll be teaching you. The concept not only to answer the exam, but also for the interviews which you will face later on. Okay, CM is a very good course. It has a lot of width. It covers almost everything in finance. Of course, you can't know everything. It's an ocean, but still, most of the terms and concepts would be familiar to you at the end by the time you finish and complete this course. It's a lovely course. Okay, so don't worry about it. You can go to big heights with this course, but still, provided you don't mug it up, you understand each concepts, enjoy the study, and then, of course, after you have enjoyed the study, keep in touch with it, either by teaching, using in the corporate world. In the corporate world, you may not use all the concepts which you have studied. So I would suggest teach also. I did that. I was always teaching part-time, even in Kazakhstan. I used to teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. You earn your money as well as you're in touch with the subjects. And being in touch with the subjects, you become good at work and it becomes a platform for you to go further and study, say, for your CFA. The CFA becomes so much more easier after you do your CMA. You can go in for CPA. Most of the subjects except regulation, you'll be studying in CMA for the CPA. Okay, you can go in for your SCCA also. So all this, the CMA gives you a good base for everything. Okay, right? And yeah, so that's what you should concentrate on. Any questions? Any questions before I go into the lesson? Y'all can, okay, I'll give you an idea. Instead of chatting, it's so cumbersome, right, to write it down. So long as it's not a chaos, just unmute yourself, ask the question and mute it back. Okay? If I ask you a question, you can answer me and then mute it back. Yes, any questions?
Yes, guys, you can have your question right now. You can ask, sir.
Regarding the exam. Now, all what I covered is regarding the exam. etc. If I missed any point or whatever you wanted to know, please let me know. Anyone here? Okay. If you don't have any questions on this, I'll move on to the lesson. Okay, now today's lesson.
Hello, sir.
Yes, tell me. Who is this?
Jay Kumar.
Yeah, tell me, Jay Kumar.
If the MCQs, if we take more than 3 hours, then also you will not pass on to the next session.
No, there's no chance of you taking more than 3 hours.
Okay.
It will close automatically.
All right. Okay. Understood.
It's not like your college exams, etc., where you tell the sir, 1 more minute, sir, 1 more minute. I just 1 minute, sir, I'll write it. No, there's no chance. It just closes down on your face. Okay, and tells you to pick up your belongings and leave the examination hall. In my time, it was like that.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Right. So it is to give a message also. Please take all your belongings and leave the exam hall. Okay. At exactly 3 hours, it shuts down.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Okay. So that time, that was the format. In my time, the format was not, multiple choice and essays. There were 4 papers with multiple choice and 1 paper for an essay. It was like that. Okay. When I'm talking my time, I did my CMA in 2003, 20 years ago. Okay. So, yeah. So that time the format was different. Anyways, so let us come to the lesson. So today's lesson, what I'm doing the small topic in part 2, section A, which is ratio analysis. It's a very good topic to score marks. It has about, if I'm not mistaken, 20% in the exam, weightage. Okay, weightage in the exam. So this is it. And yeah. So in this, the topic which I'm going to do is liquidity ratios. What do you do in liquidity ratios? You're testing your liquidity. Now, when I'm explaining a thing, I shouldn't be using the same word. Okay, so what is the meaning of liquidity? Come on, guys. I want the class to be interactive. Okay, I want to engage all of you all. What do you think is liquidity? Anybody? I think there was quite a lot of people today, 24, 25. Okay. What is liquidity? Anybody? In your own words, just unmute it. Tell me, I get an idea what it is. What is your idea about liquidity?
This is difference between current asset and current liabilities.
No, that is working capital.
Sir,
That's
sir,
working
it's
capital.
actually an ability to liquidate the current assets and pay the current liability.
Okay. That is very nice. Yes. Okay, so liquidate means, again, you're using the same word, convert it into cash. That's what it means. Okay, so that's what liquidate is all about. Fine. So you have your current assets. Now, what are current assets? Comes to that. Current assets are those assets which can be converted into cash, which are already in cash or can be converted into cash within a year. Let us talk about the operating cycle later on. Let us not complicate that. There is more to what is current. Okay. It is actually within a year or operating cycle, whichever is longer, but let us not talk about the operating cycle at the moment. Let us keep it simple. Anything that can be converted into cash or its equivalents within a year. So you have the first testing for liquidity. Now, again, liquidity is you have money to pay off your current liabilities and your current expense. When that happens, you have liquidity. Many farmers, for example, in India, many farmers, they suffer from a liquidity problem, actually. They are solvent. Now, do you know the difference? What is their solvency? They have assets. They have a big loan, let us say. Okay, they commit suicide, etc. They have a big loan because the problem is they cannot pay the interest and principal because of dependence on monsoons and etc. The rains are not there like now it is in Bangalore. Okay, the crops are not there and they suffer losses because they've taken loans in order to plant and to, cultivate their land. Are they solvent? Can they pay off their debt? Yes, they can pay off if they sell this land. Okay, solvency is basically your assets, your total assets. Total assets should be greater than your total liabilities. That is it. If your total assets are liabilities, okay. If your total assets are greater than your total liabilities, you're solvent, but you may not be liquid. You do not have money to pay your current liabilities and your current expenses. It is something like, in order to cut your hair, to have a haircut, you don't have money, so you want to sell your house for that. Okay, it's something like that. The day-to-day expense, you want to touch your big assets. That is a liquidity problem. But you have a big asset, then you're solvent. Okay, then you are solvent. Right. Now, liquidity ratio, how do we test it? There is something called current ratio, which is computed as current assets divided by current liabilities. Okay. Now, what are current assets? Current assets, which can be converted in a year. So, inventory, accounts receivable, cash, the cash equivalents of marketable securities. I'll put marketable securities. And there's also prepaid expense, which I really still don't know why it is included, because it is not there, not available to pay off the current liabilities, but probably it reduces the current liabilities, so it's put there. Okay, so that is there, divided by current liabilities. Now, current liabilities will be in the form of accounts payable. What are accounts payable? Generally, those suppliers who have supplied merchandise to the firm. What is merchandise? Merchandise is what the goods which they buy to resell or to use in manufacturing. That would be raw materials. Okay, so whatever the suppliers supply for the firm to resell or to manufacture, those are accounts payable. Okay, and then there are tax payables, various other accruals, the current portion of a long-term loan, the current portion, which you have to pay within a year. Okay, the loan may be for 10 years, but what do you have to pay the next year? That would be the current portion of a long-term loan. Short-term debts, which has to be paid within a year, okay, which is generally a working capital loan. So all this is there. Okay, now practically you work it out to be 200 by 100. It can be 200,000, 2 million by 1 million, anything, 200 by 1 million. So your ratio is 2:1. So can you tell the manager that you have, your position is very good? Okay, you can just see, you got, see, what does this mean? It means that you have got $2 of current assets for each dollar of your liability. Okay, so it looks like you have a very good position, right? 2:1. What do you say, guys? Can you tell the manager that, tell your boss that everything is okay, all is fine? Yeah? Anybody? Anybody? Everything is okay? First of all, yeah, tell me. Yes, somebody started to speak. No, we shouldn't actually, depend too much on figures. We have to go practically when it happens. I learned this all the difficult way. I have been telling depending on numbers and reporting to my seniors that everything is okay. And later we find ourselves in a cash crunch. Why is that? First of all, there is no norm, a universal norm for what should be the current ratio. In the text, they're given 2:1 is good. No, it's not good. It depends. Each industry would have different norms. Depends on the industry. Suppose the timber industry, 5:1 is maybe the norm for that. Maybe a high current ratio because inventory is high. They hold high inventories. Okay, so it depends on what is the norm as per each industry. Okay, now when you have this figure, there is so many questions. The quality, anyway, this prepaid expense is not available for you to pay your current liabilities. Okay, but it has reduced your current liability because you have prepaid it. Okay, so inventory, will this sell? Can you sell this within a year? There might be some slow moving items. Have you made sufficient provisions for that? Okay, then how good are your accounts receivable? Do they pay promptly? Are they very bad? Sometimes the quality of the accounts receivable may be very bad. Maybe all government debts, and governments takes their own sweet time to pay off. Okay, so will these guys pay? That is another question. Okay, cash and cash securities and marketable securities. Marketable securities, can they be sold in the short term without significant loss in market value? That has to be checked. Cash is there, but is this cash restricted cash? In the sense, is this cash free to use in your day-to-day expense, or is it kept to actually pay off a big loan? Okay, a big loan, or no, not a big loan. Let us say it has been kept to buy a fixed asset. If it is kept to pay off a big loan, the big loan will come in the denominator. Okay, so all that should be seen. And the quality of your current liabilities also should be looked into. How urgent? Now, among these, okay, we'll put also salary payable. Accrued salaries. You're not paid it, but you're charged the income statement. Okay. Now, according to you guys, which do you think is most urgent? You should be doing this analysis before you report the figures. Okay. So, I'm talking from the working point of view because I've been in the industry for 20 years. I've faced several bosses and I know each one's boss, what are their expectations. Okay. So you tell me, among the current liabilities, which do you think is most urgent? Come on. I've noted down something there. Accounts payable, tax payable, several other accruals, current portion of a long-term loan. Okay, which do you think? It's your opinion. Each one might have a different say in that. Come on.
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable. I would say that is least urgent.
Salary payable.
Yeah. Right. Now, accounts payable, why did I say it's least? You know why? We play about it that in real life, we had a very big supplier. My boss used to always tell him, okay, be a bit patient. He was a good guy. Okay, so we tell him, be patient, we owed him more than $1 million. Okay, ultimately he went to the bank and factored his receivables. Okay, that's another story. But we can stretch it a bit and it is interest free. If you delay, you can tell them, no, our policy is to pay only on Wednesdays. So next Wednesday, you will get your payment. People do all that. Okay. But if you delay too much with them, if you mess around too much with accounts payable and do not pay them on time, every time you're delaying and etc., what they'll do, either they go to the court or next time they won't give you credit. Okay. But this is stretchable in my experience. More than salary payable. Yes, salary payable is important, no doubt about it. Okay. I would not mess about with the government tax payable because this has penalties. You delay the salary once or twice, of course, your reputation with the employees would go down. Okay. But what would happen is you can pay them. There's no penalties. But if you delay on taxes, there could be penalties. There could be interest charged, etc. Okay. So I would say first salary payable, first tax payable, then salary payable. But unfortunately, companies don't think too much about giving this priority. Take Kingfisher Airlines, for example. When they went bust, they did not pay salaries for so many employees and people committed suicide, See, employees actually want stability. That's why they're not entrepreneurs. Okay, they do not want to take the risk as an entrepreneur. So they're unambitious. They're not very ambitious, but they prefer the comfort of stability rather than take the risk and higher return as an entrepreneur. So you have to pay them on time and give them that stability for which they have bargained for. Okay, otherwise there's no difference between being a risky entrepreneur and an employee. Okay, so take that into account and always think that families are dependent on that and give it priority. So when you're analyzing the current ratio, I'm telling the story behind the numbers, not just the number. Okay, you should see that for salaries and taxes, you do have cash and marketable securities, the most liquid. Don't even depend on accounts receivable, they may or may not pay, because these are urgent. For this, you should at least have cash. Then you are safe. For the others like inventory, accounts for accounts payable, etc., you can liquidate your account receivable and inventory in order to pay. This is also important, by the way, current portion of a long-term loan, because the banks would be on your neck if you don't pay it. Okay, but yes, if you have good relations with the bank, like my experience, I'm telling you, we can stretch it a little bit without causing any problems. Okay, so the story behind the numbers is more important when you work in an organization. Okay, just do not compute. Any child or any 7th standard student also can compute the ratio and give them the figures. Okay, but the story behind the numbers and to report the actual liquidity position requires maturity and experience. Okay, having said that, we'll go now from the current ratio, we'll go to the next ratio, which is called the quick ratio. Also called the acid test ratio. Very funny name. Okay, now what happens here? The inventory is missing. Accounts receivable, cash, marketable securities, anything which is quick. Okay, marketable securities. The current liability is the same as before. That doesn't change. So if you had 2:1 as the current ratio, 2:1, you can have probably 1.5:1 here. The number becomes lesser because you don't have inventory, you don't have prepaid expenses. Why? Because they're not quick. Inventory in a normal course of time would take 2 steps to get converted to cash. It would get converted to AR and AR to cash. Okay, so 2 steps, right? So inventory, if it is slow, it would take more time to get converted to AR, and AR, accounts receivable, if the customer is bad, it would take more time to get converted into cash. So they put AR here, and again, good quality AR, in the sense that any non-payers should be removed. In the sense, removed means made a provision, an allowance for bad and doubtful debts should be made, and you should take the net AR here, net of provisions. Okay, cash plus marketable securities divided by the same current liability. If this quick ratio is showing a good figure, you can relax a little bit. Again, the doubt is, will the AR pay on time? That is the risk. Then a more tighter ratio called the cash ratio. Cash ratio does away with this also. No need of taking the risk of AR. Okay, we would take the cash plus marketable securities divided by the same current liabilities which you used for current ratio, for the quick ratio, etc. Okay. Now, why is it called acid test ratio? No, this is not an academic question. Actually, nobody asked you this, but just out of curiosity, I looked it up once. Nitric oxide is used to test gold, and it gives you the result immediately, whether it's gold or not. Okay. So that is why you do an acid test, nitric oxide on gold. Okay. It reveals its true colors, whether it's gold or not. Similarly, this quick ratio is called acid test ratio because this ratio gives you a quick test whether you're liquid or not. Okay, whether you can cover your current liabilities or not. It's a quick one. Like if this is giving you a 1.5:1, you can safely say to some extent that you are safe. Now, a more stringent ratio, a more strict ratio is the cash ratio. Cash plus marketable securities plus divided by current liability. They've done away with the accounts receivable, no need of taking the risk. Okay. So now this would give you a lesser number because there's no accounts receivable. So 1:1, let us say. Now you can quite safely say that you are safe because everything is in cash. Marketable securities can be converted into cash within a blink of an eye. Okay. And current liability is the same. If you have safe 1:1, that means you have $1 for each current liability. Of each dollar of current liability, you are tight, but you're okay. However, what is the source of this cash? Did you get this cash? Because that is very important. How did you get it? Did you get it from your operations? Did you get it from selling something, that is your investing? That's why we prepare the cash flow statement. Or did you get it by financing? Did you take a loan? Now, the quality of cash would be the best when you get it from your operations. Now, for example, take an individual like you or me. Each one might have, let us say all of us have a lot of cash. Okay. And Robert Abraham, for example, has got $1 million, let us say. Okay. And I have also got $1 million. I wish. Okay. So let us say both of us are millionaires. Okay. Now, when we look into the matter, how we got the money, we realize that Robert Abraham has got it from financing activities. He has taken a loan. Okay. He has taken a loan. And I have got it from my business activity, from operations. Okay, so my quality of cash is better, is it not, than his? Now, if he has taken a loan from, got it from financing activity, he has to pay interest. If he doesn't have cash from operating, he cannot pay the interest as well. Okay, so anyway, though it might look good, the ratio might look good, the source also counts. That's why they have got another ratio, more stringent, operating cash flow ratio, in which they put only operating cash flow in the numerator. Okay, divided by the same current liabilities. If you have this, you probably would fall short here, maybe 0.8:1, because if you have taken a loan, that money is not included here. This operating cash flow is got from the operating cash flow section from the cash flow statement itself. Now, when you have this ratio showing, let us say if you get this ratio, not even 0.8:1, if you get it as 1:1, now I think you can safely say you're safe. Okay, that you have got good money from a good source to pay your current liabilities. So these are the different degrees of liquidity testing. Okay, these are the different levels of liquidity testing that one would face. Okay, and these are the tools which a financial manager has in order to test the liquidity of a firm. It's up to you, depending on the urgency of the current liabilities. What I would say is, if the current liabilities are very urgent, having salaries and taxes, etc., use the operating cash flow ratio just to see that whether you can cover at least those items. Okay, at least remove the other current liabilities, be a little innovative, okay? Just put salary and taxes in the denominator and see whether your operating cash flow covers that, because that's most urgent, okay? So you can work out, at work, you can work out different things. Don't have to go as per the text. We have, in fact, in our company, we have invented our own formulas, okay, for liquidity, profitability, especially for profitability. Anyways, you know the concept now. Very rarely they would ask you questions on how do you compute a current ratio? They may not give you, no, very rarely they would give you figures and tell you to compute the current ratio. So that is a very easy question, okay? They would actually ask you sensitivity. Now, what is sensitivity? For that, let me do a question. Do this. I generally give the students some time to solve a question. Okay, and then I would attack it. Do question number 1, please. Everybody can see it, I suppose, right? Everybody can see it. See, one more thing I should mention to you, it might be an interruption. I would explain the concept just like I did just now and do multiple choice questions. Okay, generally a lot of multiple choice questions, but I would give you also a chance to do more questions. Okay, and I would spend more time on multiple choice questions because that would give you also a concept. As you are doing it, you learn a concept. Okay, so even if you get it right, you have to listen to my entire explanation, because there's something you may not know. And while studying, also know why the wrong answers are wrong. Okay, right. Now answer it, please. What's the right answer for this? Question number 1. You can either chat, put the question number and then the answer. I think we'll have time only for one question, but you cultivate this habit of putting the question number and then the answer so that I know that it doesn't belong to any other question. Okay, as we progress to more questions. Right. Anybody? I generally give you 3 minutes, but today probably lesser time. Okay, I see one chat message. Let me see. Okay, somebody said, Sudipta Saha said C. Anybody else? Okay, what is the meaning of on account? Anybody? Purchase of 100,000 inventory on account. What does that mean? Robert Abraham says A. Okay, on account is on credit. On account means on credit. They do not pay cash. So they're asking which of these transactions, that is A, B, C, or D, would increase the current ratio. Increase. First of all, what is the current ratio now? 400 by 500. I have truncated the zeros. Okay. It is 0.8:1. What would make it more than 0.8? Let us see the first one. What is the accounting entry for this? Of course, to be financial managers, you should know accounting very well. The double entry system, you should know it like the back of your hand. If I hold you upside down, you should be able to tell me. Okay. So what is the accounting entry? A perpetual inventory system. Okay, Nikita also says A. Right. Anybody with accounting entries? Generally, my experience is the moment I ask accounting or journal entry, the whole class becomes silent. Okay. You should be involved in it because you will study a lot about it in part 1. Yes, Robert Abraham gives it correctly. Debit inventory, credit accounts payable. So, debit inventory, 100,000. Credit accounts payable, 100,000. Okay. What would happen to the numerator? There's current assets, current liabilities. What would happen to the numerator? Numerator would become 500 because of an addition of inventory. Accounts payable would become 600 because the addition of a current liability, which is accounts payable. The resultant ratio is 0.833. It increased. It increased. A is the right answer. So why is this so important? Because generally, when a company takes a loan, the banks expect a certain amount of current ratios and liquidity ratios. Okay, they expect it. That would be one of the covenants. What are the covenants? Covenants are the protective clauses in a loan agreement which protects the creditor. Who is the creditor here? The bank who has given us the money. Okay, they would expect a higher current ratio or higher, what do you call, quick ratio, etc. Right? Sometimes during the year end, when you have to report the figures to the bank, you would be running short of this. It has happened in our company when we had taken a loan from HSBC. One of the covenants was 1:1 quick ratio. We used to always have a slightly short quick ratio. So how do you boost it? So whenever you're short in a current ratio, just buy inventory on account. Anyway, you need inventory. You buy it on credit and it will boost it up. You can tell the manager that. Am I right? Am I right? We can always do this technique to boost up the current ratio. The answer is Robert Abraham says yes, I say no. Do not give this kind of advice to the manager because for this situation, it did increase. What if the current ratio was 500 by 400, the other way about? Current assets being 500, current liabilities being 400, and 1.25, is it? 1.25 is to 1. Now, if you buy inventory on account, just see the magic what happens here. If you buy inventory on account, the numerator becomes 600 because inventory is added. The denominator would become 500 because accounts payable is added. What is the resultant ratio? It has gone down. So the manager will, your boss will ask you now, you told me to purchase it, you made the ratio worse. Okay. So what is happening here? Why did it go down here and go up here? The reason is the impact on the numerator and the denominator. When it was 400 by 500, the impact on the numerator was higher because it increased 100 over a total of 400, is it not? There was a 25% increase in the numerator, where the denominator also increased, but to a lesser extent because it was 100 added for over a total of 500. So there was a 20% increase. There was a greater percentage increase in the numerator, which increases the ratio. Denominator also increased, but to a lesser extent than the numerator. Since the numerator increased by a higher percentage, since the impact on the numerator was more, the ratio increased. Now here it was the other way about. The numerator increased by a lesser percentage, 100 over a total of 500. There was a 20% increase in the numerator. And there was a 25% increase in the denominator. The impact on the denominator was more. So when you know very well by math, common math, that when the denominator increases by a higher percentage, the ratio drops. So that's why the ratio dropped here. So it was not magic, it was logic. Okay. This is the science or the math behind why or sometimes the ratio goes up and down. So you should closely watch what was the ratio to start off with in order to study the sensitivity. Okay. Now, having got this correct, you should not ignore the others. You should understand why the others are wrong. For example, can anybody tell me what effect would B have on the current ratio? Collection of an accounts receivable. What effect it would have on the current ratio? Would it increase it? Would it decrease it? Or what would it do with it? Can you tell me? Anybody? Yes? Anybody? What effect would a collection of 100,000 accounts receivable have? For that, okay, two people have answered. Remains, effect will be nil. Anjali Shaw and Uttam Kumar says remain unchanged, you mean, right? You put remain unchanged. That's what you mean. Yes, correct. It would remain unchanged. Okay. So what has happened here? The entry would be debit cash, 100,000, credit accounts receivable, 100,000. So in this 400, let us say you had AR 100, inventory 100, cash 200. Let us say that makes up 400, is it not? When this happens, accounts receivable will become 0. Inventory is unchanged. Cash will be 300. Because cash will increase, account receivable will decrease. You still have 400 in the numerator. Before also 400, afterwards also 400, and denominator did not change at all. There is no entry. This entry doesn't touch the denominator. That's why there is no change. So this remains unchanged. So similarly, you will analyze C and D as well for homework because the class is now done. It was a 1 hour session. So I just finished it. I hope by this you get an insight of how we are going to conduct the classes. Okay. It's going to be rigorous. It is going to be what you call stressful because I would be involving y'all and engaging y'all. That's the only way you can pass the exam. Okay. You have to struggle. And one more thing, let me tell you one important thing. If you have attended a class on a particular day, I told you you need 3 hours of study every day consistently. Have I told you that? Yes, I have told you. Please bear in mind, many students have got this psychological effect that if they don't close the room doors and study, that means they have not studied. Okay, I have not studied anything. I have not touched. Okay, I cannot write the exam. At the time of exam, they get all this fear. I cannot write the exam. It's rubbish. If you have concentrated in the class, taken part, like you have, some of you all have taken part in answering the questions, understood the explanation, okay, that means you have studied. Take it into account, you have studied. Count, make the classes count. And that day, don't study. When you have class, don't study. You have already studied 2 or 3 hours. Okay, I'm just telling that if you want, you can study. Okay, you can just revise what we did in the class, but take into account you have studied. Okay, because why you take it into account you are not studied is because you are not concentrating in the class. If you are not concentrated in the class, that means you are not studied. You have to study again. So make the classes count. Participate in the problem solving. Ask questions. Clarify your doubts after the class. Okay, get the concept very clearly. Attempt the question because that's why I give you time to attempt the questions before I start working it out. Okay, I give you time so that to engage you, so that you are studying there. So if I finished all the sections, that means you have studied all the sections as well. You only need to revise now. Don't say you didn't study. You need to revise. That's all. Okay. That would give you a boost to your confidence that you attended classes, so you have studied. Many students think that if they have attended classes alone, they have not studied. So that's wrong. Okay. So, okay, guys, any questions? Any questions for me? Because I'm going to wind up the class now. Any questions you have? Any specific thing about the topic done in class? Or about the exams in general? Or any other question? No? Then I will wind up the class now. Baswati, I'm going to shut down.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So, guys, feel free to ask if you have any question regarding CMA in general also, or like on the topic sir has taught, whatever, because we are going to start with the regular classes of part 2 very soon, maybe April last week only. And sir will be teaching you starting with part 2. And there are so many students who actually start with part 2, because as sir has said in the starting only, P2 has a little higher passing ratio than compared to part 1. So sir will be starting with part 2, and after that we'll go to part 1. And the parts of CMA are totally independent of each other.
What should be
Anjali
the
has
study
asked.
schedule to be followed for the exam?
Yeah.
For the current window. What do you mean by that? Like what part should be done first? Anyway, you can start with anything. I'm going to start with section A, B, C, etc. Okay.
And sir, Anjali is writing P2 in May June window, right? May June, Anjali, or September October you are writing?
See, actually, it would go more than June.
May June. May June.
May, June means you may not have the time, no?
No, she is our existing student.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's already taken classes, is it?
Yes, she has taken classes, sir. So
Okay.
she just want like a systematic revision. Maybe that's why she asked you.
See, because we are going to have only on weekends, right? Or weekdays? Weekdays, no?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, then we can finish. If we have more days, we can finish. Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Okay, Baswati, I'll wind up. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Anjali has written, I have given one attempt. Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Yeah.
So this time she's quite determined, and we are also very hopeful that she will make it.
Yes. Another thing, Anjali, you are free
Yeah.
to ask questions even after the class hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Students generally ask me by WhatsApp or something like that. Maybe if there are too many questions, I might delay a little, but I would eventually answer them. Okay. So
So
feel
guys, we're going to start with it end of April. This should be known by the old students who are going to restart with part 2, and the new students as well. So sir will be taking the classes, so you can contact your respective coordinator regarding the rest of the admission procedure. Kalyani, if you can once share the slide which shows the fee structure of IMA. They can take a screenshot of it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, goodbye, everybody. Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes. The fee structure is visible. So here you can see clearly. It's totally divided. What is the actual IMA US fee, membership, entrance, paper 1 exam fees, paper 2 exam fees, and what will be the fees you have to pay after the discount Uplift will provide you. The discounted fees of Uplift, because Uplift is an authorized learning center of IMA US. So if you want this one, you can keep it handy by taking a screenshot. Right, guys? Taken? Kalani, please go to the slide above it. Yes. So these are the USPs. Why? What are the special things you will be getting from us? No re-registration fee. So once you are a student of Uplift, you are a student of Uplift until you pass both your papers. We have students who have passed one paper and then went abroad, worked there for 2 years, again came back and passed this other paper at no extra fees. So you will be getting the live classes, and after that you will get the recording of this kind of live class so that you can revise it at your home whenever you are free. Classes will be most probably from 9, it will start from 9 p.m. instead of 9:30 as it is written here. And we are going to start the batch from April last week only. Any question you can ask me. You can unmute yourself and ask me, or later on you can talk to your coordinator. Jai Sharma, Nikita, Amarnath, may I know from where you got our reference? Amarnath, ML Amarnath. He left. Yes, tell me. Amarnath, Mr. Amarnath. Are you talking, by the way, because you are not audible? Kelani, you can switch off the recording.